actually been on holidays for a couple of weeks. Went up to Fiji to try and find some sunshine, which was absolutely fantastic. It's really cold in Sydney right now, not as cold as maybe in the Northern Hemisphere is in winter, but it's pretty cold down here, which you can see from my jumper. So hopefully you're all enjoying your summers up there. So just wanted to give you an update. This is where I've been at over the last couple of weeks. We have been covering, this is one half of the top wing, which I've now covered in Oritex, and it's been a while since I've done that sort of thing, and I'm absolutely delighted with the way it's come together. I'm not sure whether we can just get a shot on the wing now. I mean, look at that. The wing tips, which are normally the hardest bits, have just turned out absolutely beautifully. Super happy with that. You can see here that I made the false upper surface controller, so this actually is not functional. It just looks the part, because that's what would have happened on the full size. And then you can see underneath we've got the wood, which is still to go, and I'm going to start working on that in a second. So that's all good. I tell you what, if you like making wings and covering wings, you know, take on a World War I project, because in this particular plane, if you consider the 3 top wing, upper wing sections, the 2 lower wing sections, and then the sub wing which goes between the undercarriage, you're covering 6 wings. So there's quite a lot of work to do. The other thing that's happened in the last couple of weeks, which I'm excited about, if you just look down here, I sent away the lozenge fabric to actually have it sewn together. So you can see, if you come in nice and close on the stitching, it's the sort of Levi's jean stitching, which is exactly the same as what the full size has. Lucky enough to know someone who has seamstresses, so they sewed that up for me, which I'm really happy with. And of course down here you can also see that that's the undercolour. So this is the darker one is the top, the lighter one, the pink, is the undercolour, and I really like that combination. So that's one of the reasons why I chose this particular plane. One thing I'll just talk about with the lozenge, I know not many people actually do cover with a lozenge, but getting a bit nerdy, World War I scale here, but if you look carefully, the lozenges are actually elongated. You can see that they're sort of a little bit longer going that way and shorter going that way. So they're actually meant to be long going across the wing. So if that's the airflow going that way, you want them shorter to the airflow and longer across the wing. So the temptation when you unroll a thing of lozenge is just to roll it out across the wing, but that would then have you with them pointing in the wrong direction like that, because that's the way it comes out of the roll. So you actually see that quite well there. So that's one of the reasons why I had to send them off to be sewn, but to me it looks really good. But one of the learnings I do have for you all is be really seasonal with your covering. So not so much painting, because I think modern paints do a good job of adapting to conditions, but when I'm using things like dope, and even the other day I tried to fiberglass something and it just wouldn't set up. So what I'm actually going to do, and last time I think when you saw me do experiments with the lozenge, I was also doing that in winter. So I'm actually going to wait a couple of months until it gets a little bit warmer here before I actually cover the lower wings with the lozenge and also doing the fuselage. Because I just think we're going to get a much better result. So given this project's 3 years old now, I think waiting a couple of extra months to get a good result is the right way to go. So really that's it from me. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a time lapse for you, and you can actually see me cover the wings. It's going to be pretty repetitive type stuff, but I enjoy watching time lapses of progress like that when I'm watching YouTube. So hopefully you enjoy what you see next. So we might come in at the end just to sort of do a bit of a sum up with how it's all gone. So see you soon. update. I just finished the first section of the wing this morning, so I just thought I would show you how that turned out. I'm on the camera on my own today, so apologise if it's a bit rough. Yeah, not a huge amount to report. I mean, it's much, much easier covering the lower section of the wing, the underneath the wing, because it's generally a flat profile. You might have seen me at the start of the time lapse just messing around with a little template here. It just made me easier to, made it easier, sorry, on the fabric to just find these penetration marks for the end strut holders, and also that's the servo arm sticking through the covering. You might have seen before on the other wing when I was sort of showing you around, I had the little leather piece and also the fake. I'll show you here. Here it is. So anywhere on the full size one where anything comes through the fabric, they generally put like little leather patches around them. So I experimented with a bunch of different colours, but in the end I quite like this dark brown colour. So I'm not sure whether you can see that very clearly. It looks a bit fakey because it's quite shiny, but I think for what we're doing, and because you're going to be standing, you know, a few metres away from it, it helps to sort of see that it's actually leather. So when it's done, you'll see that there, and I'll probably put little ones there as well. But yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, full disclosure. I mean, it amazes me how well the Oratex goes around these corners. I mean, that was just a mess, and all you do is you just pull it down as hard as you can and keep putting heat into it, and just somehow magically it goes like that. So listen, that looks amazing. Remember, this is the underneath, so you'll probably notice as well, you can see the show through from where I've gone over bits, because I decided not to paint the underneath of the wing the same way I did on the top of the wing with white, because, you know, you're not going to see it underneath here. This is about the roughest part on the whole wing. Just there. It's just where a few different pieces have sort of come over the top of each other. Remember, I'm going to be painting green stripes across this, so I'm hoping that kind of that might cover that up a little bit, or I might just sand that section off or something and maybe just put a little patch on there. But listen, generally, really happy with the way the leading edge came together. What I'm actually thinking about doing on this edge join there, and also going around the edge here, is on the full size, the lozenge, they put strips of lozenge around the front. So what I'm actually thinking about doing, sorry, I'm just moving it around, it's a bit hard doing camera and the thing at the same time. What I'm thinking about doing along here, so you can see there's a very, very fine seam there. I'm actually thinking about cutting like a sort of strip that's about that wide, and just sort of putting it over the top of there just to seal that edge up, and it'll also give that same look once I've painted it like it's lozenge stripping. Anyway, that's the idea I'm going with at the moment. So anyway, I'm probably not going to do time lapses on the whole thing because it's going to be very, very repetitive, but you know, at the end of the day, for it to look like that and be that smooth, that's just a bit of dirt that's come on, same as there. It actually, Oratex picks up the dirt pretty easily, so I'll clean all that off. But listen, I've got to say, I know there are lots of different brands out there. Oratex has been amazing for me to use. It's very, very forgiving, and it's really hard to make a bad mistake. Oh, there's the end. I'll probably, knowing how obsessive I am with that neatness, I'll probably end up putting an entire thing of Oratex over that whole section just to sort of seal that up as well, and then recut the penetration marks. Oh, by the way, sorry, you might have seen me using a soldering iron. That's a real kind of hack for this sort of covering. So rather than cutting things out like that after you've done it, the soldering iron melts it really, really nicely, and it also sort of melts the covering to the thing. So I use the soldering iron to cut out the hinge holes, as well as sort of those penetrations for the servo arm thing. It's just one of those little things that works really, really well. Here you can see the difference just quickly between when you paint the underside, when you paint the whole thing white, like the wood white underneath the fabric, for when you double it up like that. Because on the top, remember, I painted all of the underside, all of the wood and here and there and everything. That's all been painted white. So anywhere where it doubles over, you can't see it because it's been painted. So I don't know, maybe I was a bit lazy not painting the bottom as well, but you know, thinking about weight and all that sort of stuff. But this is the bit that you're going to be looking at 90% of the time. So I thought, you know, let's just stick with that. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed that. I'm going to get back on covering the rest of the parts, and I'll come back in a second. Hey everyone, all right, we're back. It's the next day from the last set of time lapses and everything that I did, and as you can see here on the table, we've got the finished upper wing. So I'll just get a pan all the way from the edge, but just to give you a sense of the size of it, this thing that it's sitting on is a full-size door, and it's basically an extra 2.5 feet longer than a full-size domestic door, so it's pretty huge. All in all, I'm really, really happy with the way the Oritex has gone on. It's really, really smooth. As I mentioned before, it's very, very forgiving. And yeah, I couldn't be happier with it. You can see my little leather patches here, so anyone who knows the full-size one, generally when penetrations come through the fabric on the full-size one, they put leather around it just to protect the fabric. So I've made those little leather patches. I've made a whole bunch of them, which I think looks really good. As I mentioned before, these are actually fake control arms on the top. It's actually going to be controlled underneath by the servos, which are already in there. So for those of you who remember the colour scheme that I'm going with, it's got like sort of green and white candy stripes going diagonally on the top. So that's actually going to be the next part. But listen, it feels really, really fantastic to have the massive top wing done, other than the painting and the insignias and things like that. It's absolutely done, which is fantastic. So now, really, the next step is to get on with probably mounting the engine, which I've been putting off for ages, but it's really, I'm running out of things to do. So I think we mount the engine, and then we start thinking about covering the lower wings in the lozenge, and then we cover the fuselage in the lozenge, and I'll tell you what, then we're really, really close. So I think kind of a Christmas this year, December this year, first flight really is on the cards. So listen, thanks again for following along. Hope everything's great where you are.